I came face to face with the old woman. It was hard to take my eyes from hers. When eventually our eyes separated a mutual gaze, I looked around quickly at the masked onlookers. All stood, arms still aloft, perfectly rigid and stone-like, their eyes under the mask glazed over like a shallow puddle in the dark of winter. The sound of a guttural utterance turned my attentions once more to the old woman. She placed the jewel scepter in my hands. Her old wizened eyes widened with a relieved bewilderment as the jewels on the ancient relic I now held in my hand began to turn and spin in unison. "My old friend," she said, as she raised her bony arms to her face, removing the mask and revealing her face. "My old friend. It is you?" I recognized the person before me. However, it wasn't immediately clear where from. The harder I examined the worn-out, weathered face behind the now free-flowing long silver beard, the less it made sense. It can't be," I stuttered. "Oh, but it is," came the reply. "But how?" I asked slowly, my pulse quickening at the sheer disbelief. "This island changes everything." I reached out one arm to her chest and pulled at the toga-type dress she was wearing to confirm my suspicions. There was no flinch of hesitance as I peeled back the cloth and revealed the bare, hirsute chest of an aged gent. "As I say, it changes everything, Twelvel." "Hennessy," I managed. "Yes, my friend. It's been a long time." In a matter of seconds, the masked character was gone, along with each and every onlooker. The sand now cooled completely, leaving the now less uncommon fugolites and an eerie pulsating silence, as if the physical fabric of the atmosphere had rippled. I had landed hard from my levitation, and both my left wrist and ankle had been badly sprained. However, if I was in any pain, it was numbed by the shock I was in. That did just happen. I was not dreaming. Those people were real. The old woman in the mask was not a woman, but an old man named Hennessy Twelvel. I am a young man. My name is Hennessy Twelvel. I just met myself from the future, in the present, in my boxer shorts. The same week-old boxer shorts. Good job he knows me, I suppose. Before I managed to gather my thoughts to some level of understanding, my shivering got the better of me, and a sudden invasion of the fierce flies forced me to make for my clothes. Standing up proved difficult. Wincing as I pushed myself up and groaning as I put my weight through my swollen ankle, I'd taken one step and I was down. Flat on my face, again, tripping over something heavy and metallic. There, glistening in the fading sunlight, the item that put to rest any remaining questionable doubt that the last hour of my life was not a dream. The scepter. The same scepter that returned the old me, old Hennessy, to the island. The same scepter which was handed to me by my future self. What in the 7th level of Hades is really going on? Am I losing my mind? Is it already lost? Feeling lost, my destination was now absolutely nowhere. The scepter which the old man reminded me of our 2 visits, presently, and my dimensional past, was no longer of any navigational use. Tempted to throw it back in the water each time it got too heavy, I found I simply couldn't part with it. Not only its unique antiquity, but the old man insisted it would take me back to where I belong. But if he was me, and he is still here, then... I decided to make my way back to the inn on the cove. It will be easy enough. Just keep the water to my left and continue dead ahead. Within another hour's walk, the harbour will be visible. Just as I reach the end of the water, I feel those eyes on me again. I pull my makeshift spear close into my chest and wrap my left hand protectively over my shoulder bag, housing my precious, alleged compass cum scepter. I instantly felt heat on my inner left arm. Pulling away from the burning and looking at the heat source, the orange glow had returned. Worried for my bag bursting into flames, I turned the satchel on its end, causing the scepter to fall to the floor, along with the remains of one fruit. The jewels whirring and repositioning themselves in a frenzy. I hear the crack of twigs to my right, not too deep into the bracken. My pulse quickens and I adopt an aggressive stance, spear pointing towards the noise. The scepter at my feet emits one loud, final click, leaving each bright ruby lined up pointing in the very same direction my now trembling spear was aimed. Coincidence? I think not. A mixture of frightening curiosity and a now overwhelming urge to get the hell off this island took over my senses. Slinging my bag, holding my new bejeweled compass in my left hand and my spear in my right, I darted in the direction I was prompted. In the same instant, I could hear the sound of 2 feet thrashing through the undergrowth at a frustratingly quicker pace than mine. I gave chase, occasionally setting my eyes on the moving body. It was clearly human, with male's gait, very small, and expertly practiced in moving through the ever-increasingly dense forest. Then, like a magician, he was gone. The jewels continued to lead the way towards some unknown goal. I still kept up a good pace, considering the obstacles I repeatedly faced. Fallen trees, slimy branches, trees twisted to make supersized trees, some of which combined with a marsh-like floor took what felt like 5 minutes to navigate around. Just as I thought I was allowing the rainforest to guide me by going with it, not against it, as my father taught me, or was it that enormous Schwarzenhagen chap from his time training with the secret armed forces in Malaya, or was it in Manchester? Anyway, damn this heat, and damn this island, and damn this slippery little sod I'm chasing. How does he fit in with this puzzle? What does he hold that's so important to this conundrum? Am I chasing myself? Because that would make perfect sense right now. After a good, increasingly slowing 2-hour chase, the orange glow began once more. I was now very, very deep in the jungle, and he was close. I knew it. I felt the atmosphere change, and once again felt those eyes on me. I stood still and listened. Just those bloody noisy birds and frogs again. There he was, looking down at me from the highest branch, at least 40 feet in the sky. A sinister sight before me indeed. Crouched, perfectly motionless in the canopy, shrouded by the high mist, the glisten of his eyes barely visible through the simply carved, now all too familiar wooden mask. A mask which was now emitting the same orange hue as the relic I held in my hand. Another coincidence? I think not. I think not indeed. Came the sound as large blue spherical berries hit my chest, and a happy cackle emitted from the shadowy figure above. I could only laugh in return at the sheer audacity and surrealism the scenario found us both in. Raising my left unburdened hand to my chest, and extending my thumb gesturing towards myself, I bellowed, "Twelvel!" No reply. I repeated, "Twelvel! My name is
Shush! Smorps,
he interjected. "Pleased to meet you, Smorps." No reply. "Do you speak English?" Only silence came. "Do you know anything about this?" I asked as I held the scepter aloft. He looked down at me, slowly raising his hands to behind his head. The glow of orange light diminished as the mask was removed, revealing a handsome face despite the dark and sunken eyeballs. Strapping the mask securely on his forearm, he descended the tree with all the natural ability of a primate. He reached the lowest bough, but came no lower, seeming anxious to touch the forest floor. I felt no underlying threat, yet sensed he knew I had an even lesser chance of catching him in the trees, thus providing him with some sort of comfort in this bizarre standoff. Who am I all of a sudden? Dr. Young? I had to play this carefully and think through each move. I, however, couldn't begin to think where to start. I began again. Pointing at my chest, I repeated, "Twelvel." As I pointed at Smorps and drew a breath to repeat his name again, he interrupted.
Alright, easy, Twelvel, I got it.
A metaphorical ton lifted from my shoulders. "Excellent. You speak English," came my rhetorical question.
I hope that's a rhetorical question. I speak English thrice, yo.
"I see," I said, my brow beginning to furrow. "How long have you been here, Smorps?" I asked.
1 year, 5 years, 12 years. It's all academic on Queasy. I saw you arrive.
"You saw me arrive?
Yes.
What happened to the other man? The other man on the watercraft?"
The other man? There was no other man. I think this island might be sending you a bit crazy, mate.
"Heresy!" I bellowed.
Whoa.
The birds stopped. The frogs in the immediate vicinity stopped. Everything stopped at the short, sharp shout. I instantly regretted my actions, as my new co-inhabitant took flight with a scared look of confusion. As he turned to head back into the canopy with haste, the mask on his forearm snagged on a new emerging sapling branch which pulled it from his arm. It fell to the floor and landed silently before me. After placing the scepter between my legs and holding it there with my thighs, I reached down to pick up and examine the mask. I saw a flash of orange and felt a jolt of static smack my fingers, which made me think twice about touching it. However, the intrepidation gene I have inherited from my father took over and it was in my hands. A simple, carved mask, a horizontal line for the mouth and triangular holes for the eyes. It felt very light, even though the wood was exceptionally hard and dark. Teak or mahogany, I guessed. However, I have seen neither of these trees on this island yet. Bringing the mask up to eye level, peering through the eye holes, I considered placing the relic on my face, but thought better of it. After receiving the shock to my hands, I didn't fancy it burning itself into my flesh. My mind was racing with excitement and was getting the better of me. I pulled myself together and pressed the mask to my face and pulled the elasticated cord over the back of my head to hold it in position. After 2 or 3 seconds, there was a reaction. A reaction between the mask and the scepter. A reaction I certainly did not expect. The scepter clicked its penultimate click, and the red jewels which guided me thus far had themselves changed colour, to orange, of course, and were now standing proud of the scepter and appeared to be loose. As I pulled the encrusted amber pieces, they came away from their mounts in 3 separate parts. Once removed, the intensity of the glowing diminished to a significantly dimmer wattage. Of the 3 parts, 2 were triangular and identical in size, the third smaller and rectangular. I didn't have to think for too long where these now loose gems should be placed. While still wearing the mask, the rectangular mouthpiece was inserted first, then the right eyepiece, followed by the left. The mask sent a wave of static into my face and held it there. I was quickly beginning to panic, but I could breathe, which was the main concern for now. Simultaneously, the scepter, which now lay at my feet, clicked for the final time. Through the amber eyepieces were crystal clear. The world was now a sea of orange. As I looked down and saw the scepter was in 2 pieces, I couldn't help but draw breath in astonishment. It lay there, split open, revealing a secret compartment in its spherical base, in which lay a square-folded piece of parchment tied up neat and tight, with a thin black ribbon. With slightly shaky hands, I untied the ribbon, and just before revealing what was on the paper, closed my eyes and took a long, deep breath in. Trying in vain to believe this wasn't a dream. Maybe I'm dead, drowned at sea, and this is hell. I opened up the mysterious note. Carefully taking my time, the paper was clearly old but appeared to be in a robust condition. After opening out all the creases, a simple yet very artistic map was presented before me. Treasure map? Just what I need. A hoard of priceless artifacts and nowhere to get them home. An escape map? Please, yes. After studying the map for some time in the light I was permitted, I had a very rough idea of where I was in relation to the water. According to the cartography before me, I was in a part of the island known simply as Slip. Quite fitting. It would seem that to go back the way I came would be incomprehensible. For to carry straight on for another half a day, I shall be back on the shore, and then I'll keep the ocean to my right. Another day, and I'll be at the harbour. I considered it rather pointless trekking through the Slip wearing the mask. Also, it was stifling. I removed the mask with great ease. Thankful it hadn't fused to my skin, I glanced again at the map, which forced me to perform a comedy-style double take. There was nothing on the paper where the map was less than a minute ago. Turning the page over revealed the same with the exception of some tiny lettering in the top right corner which read RRR AGA ANLO. Compelling. I held the mask up to my eyes to check, and yes, clear as day, there was the map. Take the mask away, and there's nothing. Amazing. Incredible. Ancient secret maps by goggles. After another very slippery, very long walk, convinced the sea was to my left, I was surprised to find the water was bending to my right, away from the sea. My only logic was to assume the stream snaked its way through the forest floor, turning on itself and making its way back to the big drink. I decided to follow the water for as long as it took. Walking in the water with my legs submerged as far as my thighs in some parts, the resistance made each step more laborious. However, the gravel bottom underfoot made my progress comparatively purposeful. Night was closing in, and I had been wading through the water long enough now for my toes to begin to lose feeling. As I rounded a bend, this time to my left, I hoped to see a promising sight before me. A sight involving the ocean. However, I was met with a dumbfounding vista. I was faced with an uphill challenge, but this challenge defied physics. In the normal world, water cascades down a hill, eventually carving and eroding away the earth and rock to eventually form a waterfall. This water, however, continued up the slope. I stood and stared, contemplated, finally realized I could no longer be on my home planet.